your rights. That may be you. I'd like to welcome Shannon Locke to the stage. She's a lawyer to talk to us about know your rights as a protester. Come on up. Woo! There's another one that's higher if you want that.
Let's see. How's that? Morning, San Antonio. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about what you need to know when you're protesting, what your rights are, how you use those rights, and how you can minimize the consequences of police contact if you're forced into that situation. The first thing I want you to do when you're going to go protest is you need to have a plan. You need to have a plan and understand what your plan is. That's the very first thing you have to do. And why is that? The reason you need a plan is because there are forces that sometimes infiltrate protests. They instigate things and they cause problems when there weren't going to be any problems. And so if you have a plan, you need to think to yourself, what are we going to do today? Am I marching? Am I chanting? Am I holding signs? Am I doing all of those things? If suddenly you find yourself in a protest that is not doing what you plan to do, you have to ask yourself, who's making these decisions? How did we get to this point? And a lot of times, it's not people in your organization. It's not part of the protest. It's outside forces. And what do I mean by that? Sometimes law enforcement instigates problems, and they instigate problems so they can arrest us. We are the most incarcerated people in the world. We're the most incarcerated people in the world, and we're pretending to be free. And that is a huge problem. So remember, if they want you to be violent, they're a cop. If they want you to be violent, they're a cop. You need to be very careful. So what happens if things go badly? What happens if all of a sudden a protest goes badly? Your job in those circumstances, and you have to decide what you're going to do. Again, you have to act intentionally and not get swept up in the moment. And so as you act intentionally, you need to know what the possible consequences are. Number one, the most important thing, and if you learn only one thing today, I ask that you learn this. A deadly weapon. You should never, ever use a deadly weapon in a protest. Don't do it. Why is that? So in Texas, they've broadly defined deadly weapons. A deadly weapon is anything that in its manner of use could cause death or serious bodily injury. Is your hand a deadly weapon? Yes. Is your foot a deadly weapon? Yes. And if you use a deadly weapon against a public servant, it's a first-degree felony, 5 to 99.
Oh my gosh, hi.
And so your life can be ruined by falling into that broad definition. You have to be extraordinarily careful. So, no matter what, don't use deadly weapons. Okay, that's the first lesson. Second is, you want to minimize the amount of force that you're using. So the best thing that can happen as people start getting arrested, the best crime that you can get arrested for is interference with the duties of a police officer. That's a Class B misdemeanor. These are routinely dismissed. Sometimes they're not, but if you have to choose a crime to get arrested for, that should be the crime. The next up is resisting arrest. It's a Class A misdemeanor, a little more serious, and that does require force. So in the 60s, you would see video of protesters and you'd see protesters going limp. That is a really good model for what you want to do, because when you go limp, it takes like 2 cops to take you. No matter how, a typical adult person is going to take up police resources by going limp. Okay, so it's a good tactic to minimize your consequences and increase their use of resources. So the next thing that you want to do, and the next level up, is resisting arrest. Class A misdemeanor, it does require the use of force. And then what you don't want to do is you don't want to end up using any kind of force or cause any kind of injury to a police officer. It's a 2nd-degree felony. If you hurt your romantic partner, it's a Class A misdemeanor. You hurt a police officer, 2nd-degree felony, 2 to 20. So they are very good at protecting themselves. And how do you assault a police officer? What are the elements of that? All it requires is injury. And injury is just physical pain. So if you have a person who says, or a police officer that says this person caused me physical pain, it's a second-degree felony. Again, so going limp, okay, because remember, all it requires is the accusation. And that can seriously affect and ruin your life. So, what other rights do you need to know? You need to know that you have to remain silent, okay? But that's really the best thing that you can do if you find yourself interrogated by the police is ask for your lawyer. You only have to give a police officer your name and your date of birth, nothing else. You don't have to give them anything else. The biggest snitch in your life right now is your cell phone. Your cell phone keeps track of your location. I've had murder cases where I can see the murder suspect travel exactly to the location of the murder and travel back home. And all they do is follow their cell phone in real time. They could do it months later. So the biggest snitch in your life is your cell phone. If you're going to engage in any kind of activity where you think that leaving your cell phone at home is a great idea, turning your cell phone off so that if you power it up, it has a password on it or something like that is also a good idea. But remember, the biggest snitch in your life is your cell phone. So, additionally, you never have to give a password to your cell phone. You never have to give a password to your cell phone. And additionally, you don't have to ever speak to the police. You don't have to answer any questions. So we're living obviously in a time of great danger. Hopefully, organizations like this, we get to know who our friends are and who is standing with us at the beginning. And that's why it's so important to come out and come together and to do that. So thank you very much for having me. I sure appreciate it. And thank you.